What's up? Welcome back to Nostalgia. Dave here, another podcast. What's going on in pop culture right now? A lot's going on right now. We have Twisters, the new box office sensation starring Glenn Powell and Daisy Edgar-Jones. We have the 2024 Emmy nominations. We have The Boys Season 4 wrapped up on Amazon Prime Video. We have new music from Donald Glover and Denzel Curry and Jimin of BTS. Got to get into it. So make sure you subscribe, youtube.com/nostalgiapod, linktree.com/nostalgiapod. See the links below. Get the best of 2024 Spotify playlist linked below. Let me know it's good, and let's get into it. What's up? Welcome back to Nostalgia. Dave here with my reaction to the 2024 Emmy nominations. Going to go through the major categories, talk about who got nominated, who didn't, and what stands out either way. So just kind of jumping right in here. Overall, unsurprisingly, Shogun led all shows with 25 nominations, followed by The Bear at 23, Only Murders in the Building at 21, True Detective Night Country at 19. Other big amounts, some other shows, Baby Reindeer with 11 nominations, Fallout with 11. The Crown, and I'll get into this in a second, is the only repeat drama nominee from the last year of the Emmys, which is pretty fun. I talked about that lead up to this, that there would be a lot of change, a lot of new blood in terms of recognition, so we definitely got that. And looking at the top networks, Netflix led the way again with 107 nominations, but FX, on the strength of Shogun and The Bear, got 93 nominations, beating HBO's 91. Then Apple was in fourth with 70. Kind of unsurprising, all that, I would say. But yeah, let's jump right into Best Drama Series, where we have The Crown, Fallout, The Gilded Age, The Morning Show, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Shogun, Slow Horses, and Three Body Problem. Really nice list for the most part, and yeah, The Crown's only one of those shows that's even been nominated before. Some of those shows are brand new, and then all the other returning shows like Slow Horses, Gilded Age, and Morning Show, they weren't previously nominated, so it's a brand new batch for the most part, of course, because shows like Succession and Better Call Saul have now ended, and other shows like House of the Dragon are not in this eligibility period, and then The Last of Us we're in between seasons, Euphoria, etc. So fun drama series field. Dropping into Best Actress in a Drama Series, we have Jennifer Aniston and Reese Witherspoon for The Morning Show, Imelda Staunton for The Crown, Carrie Coon for The Gilded Age, Maya Erskine for Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and Anna Sawai for Shogun. Definitely expected Anna Sawai to get in there, and Maya Erskine as well, and Staunton. I wasn't sure if both Morning Show leads would get through, but they did. I would have enjoyed Ella Purnell from Fallout in one of these spots, but overall, it's pretty much in line with expectations. Best Actor in a Drama Series, we have Donald Glover for Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Walton Goggins for Fallout, Gary Oldman for Slow Horses, Hiroyuki Sanada for Shogun, Dominic West for The Crown, and Idris Elba for Hijack on Apple, which was a surprise for me, but I think a welcome one. I enjoyed Hijack. I enjoyed Idris on that show. That's a fun nomination. Again, other than Idris kind of sneaking in there, I think it looks pretty good for the most part, and that's kind of how the Emmys go, right? They, for the most part, do a good job, but the biggest sin the Emmys often commit is what they do in the supporting categories. So supporting actress in a drama series, we have Christine Baranski for The Gilded Age, Elizabeth Debicki for The Crown, Leslie Manville for The Crown, and then we have 4 people for The Morning Show: Nicole Beharie, Greta Lee, Karen Pittman, and Holland Taylor. This happened last year with The White Lotus Season 2, where a ton of people got nominated, effectively the whole cast. I really hate that this happens just because there's other people to recognize in the categories, and you just don't do it. It's a bit disappointing, even if most of those people are pretty deserving, It's less bad, but still pretty bad with supporting actor. You have 3 more Morning Show people. Billy Crudup, we expected, previous winner. Mark Duplass, previous nominee, not surprising, but also John Hamm. So that's 3, making that 7 supporting nominees for The Morning Show, plus 2 lead actress nominees, so 9 total. That's a show that isn't even super critically liked, so Apple's campaigning really paid off. Thankfully, Tadanobu Asano from Shogun is also here. And then Takahiro Hira from Shogun is here as well, who played as Shido. I was surprised, not so surprised to see him. I thought it was possible, but it's cool that he got in there. Also, Jack Lowden for Slow Horses and Jonathan Pryce for The Crown. Best Comedy Series, again, for the most part, pretty much in line with expectations. We have Abbott Elementary, The Bear. That's The Bear Season 2, by the way. Curb Your Enthusiasm's come back. Hacks, Only Murders in the Building. Palm Royale for Apple TV. That was one that I wasn't sure if that would happen, but it did. And then I think the 2 at the back end that I'm happy to see, Reservation Dogs' 3rd and final season on FX, the first time that show's been recognized. Really cool. And then What We Do in the Shadows on FX. It didn't get nominated last time around after previously being nominated, so it's cool that's back, because I think, again, that show's just arguably the funniest show on TV. Super well earned. Best Actor in a Comedy Series, Matthew Berry in for What We Do in the Shadows. Love it. Larry David for Curb. Steve Martin Short again for Only Murders. Jeremy Allen White for The Bear. And then another kind of welcome surprise is DeFaro Wu Antai from Reservation Dogs. So all the usual suspects are largely getting in here, including the favorites, right? I don't think any of the predictions are really changing, right, in terms of The Bear and Shogun are going to run train on these wins for sure, like the way they did with the nominations. But for the most part, things are going as they expected. Best Actress in a Comedy Series, you have this top three that we knew would be in there, right? Keita Brunson, Io Debery, and Jean Smart. And then the two I'm kind of surprised about more would be Maya Rudolph for Loot from Apple and Kristen Wiig for Palm Royale from Apple. Not in there would be Emma Stone for The Curse. And The Curse from Showtime was not nominated for Best Comedy Series. Bit surprising. Best Supporting Actor in a Comedy Series, I think this is a really competitive group. Lionel Boyce from The Bear, Evan Moss-Baccarat from The Bear. Nice to see Lionel Boyce get through in there. He plays Marcus. Awesome. Paul W. Downs from Hacks. Paul Rudd from Only Murders. Tyler James Williams for Abbott. And Bowen Yang for SNL. So some previous nominees and Eben, who won last time, are all in there. But definitely a really good field. And Supporting Actress in a Comedy Series, Liza Colin-Zayas, who plays Tina on The Bear. First time getting through here. And then a bunch of usual suspects, people we expected. Hannah Einbinder for Hacks, Cheryl Lee Ralph, and Janelle James for Abbott Elementary, Meryl Streep for Only Murders, and Carol Burnett for Palm Royale. Meryl Streep, Paul Rudd getting through as they join a show, mid-run, like Only Murders, kind of makes sense that they got through here. The guest acting nominations, for the most part, super high-profile people, a lot of Bear representation, nothing really too surprising. And then limited series, unsurprisingly, Baby Reindeer is here. That's the favorite. Also Ripley. Both those are Netflix. True Detective, Night Country from HBO. We knew those three would be there. Felt pretty good about Fargo getting in for season 5, and it did. And then the last spot, I wasn't exactly sure where this would go, but ended up being Lessons in Chemistry from Apple TV+. A bit interesting that ended up being the Apple miniseries that Apple pushed and successfully got nominations for over, say, Masters of the Air, for example, as I mentioned in my nominations predictions episode. So yeah, more or less in line with expectations. Best Actor in a Limited Series, we have Matt Bomer for Fellow Travelers from Showtime, not something I'm familiar with. Richard Gadd, of course, for Baby Reindeer, he's the favorite. John Hamm for Fargo. Tom Hollander for Feud, the second run of that. And of course, Andrew Scott for Ripley. Best Actress in a Limited Series, Jodie Foster for True Detective Night Country. Brie Larson for Lessons in Chemistry. Juno Temple for Fargo. Sofia Vergara for Griselda on Netflix. And Naomi Watts for Feud. I think that one's pretty good. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention, a comedy, The Gentleman from Netflix and Guy Ritchie. That was hotly touted to get through, and it did not. So as a result, Theo James was not nominated either. So yeah, I think Best Actress are circling back, pretty much in line with expectations. Again, Brie Larson getting through because Lessons in Chemistry succeeded pretty well. Supporting Actor in a Limited Series, unsurprisingly, Robert Downey Jr. is here for The Sympathizer, as is Lewis Pullman for Lessons in Chemistry, John Hawkes for True Detective Night Country. Happy to see that one there. Lamorne Morris, I wasn't sure if he would get through for Fargo, but pretty good. He was definitely underrated on that season. Treat Williams for Feud, and then Tom Goodman-Hill for Baby Reindeer, just kind of showing the strength of that series. Supporting Actress in a Limited Series, Baby Reindeer getting in here twice, of course, for Jessica Gunning and Nava Mao, unsurprising. Callie Reese for True Detective, as expected. Lily Gladstone for Under the Bridge, that was one I definitely was thinking about, given the juice she had for Killers of the Flower Moon, so it makes sense. I was not thinking about Dakota Fanning for Ripley. That's a pretty cool one. Shout out to Dakota Fanning breaking through once again after such a long career thus far. Diane Lane for Feud as well. And yeah, again, nothing's egregious, right? I knew Tokyo Vice wouldn't get nominated. Did I want Sho Katsumatsu from Tokyo Vice as Sato? Did I want him to get nominated more than anything? Yes, of course. I knew it wasn't going to happen. The Curse not getting through, I guess that one stands out, but really nothing's outside of the line of expectations, just I expected one show to over-index on supporting actor nominations. I was not expecting it to be the morning show, I'll be 100% honest. That's a bit of a tough beat, but the Emmys do this. So I'll do my Emmy predictions in September before the ceremony comes out in terms of who I think will win. Spoiler alert, it's going to be The Bear. It's going to be Baby Reindeer. It's going to be Shogun. Kind of already know how it's going to go. A lot of the interesting thinking has already happened now that we get the nominations. Nonetheless, who are you most excited to see nominated? What show are you rooting for? Let me know. And for more Emmy talk, more awards predictions, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. What's up? Welcome back to Nostalgia. Dave here with a review of Jimin's second solo album, Muse. Of course, Jimin, 1/7 of BTS. BTS, of course, on hiatus, as we know right now. This second Jimin solo album was recorded and produced and created entirely before Jimin went on military enlistment back in December. Much like RM's recent album from just a few weeks ago, it seems that Big Hit and all the BTS boys saved a lot more to satiate the fans while they were away. It's pretty interesting. BTS hasn't really felt like they've been away just because they kind of staggered all these solo albums coming out and then even made more of them to release in 2024. So I guess at this point we should probably expect some more albums to come out, right? I mean, Jin's already back, J-Hope's back in the fall. It feels like we're going to get a lot of solo stuff to conclude 2024 and early 25, and the next thing we know, the group will be reunited and making assumingly fresh new music again. So it's a pretty good time to be a BTS fan, and I think Jimin, of course, the first solo album certainly intrigued last year because Jimin's always stood out as a vocalist on BTS due to his, kind of unique high register. He's always noticeable on a song whenever you hear his vocals. And what I liked a lot about that debut album, Face, from him was that Jimin was dabbling in some newer sounds for him, some darker music, definitely some stuff we haven't really heard him do before, even though he hadn't really released much solo music. It just felt a little bit out of his normal purview as a member of BTS, even dabbling with a little bit of hip hop as well, certainly nothing he had done before. Jimin's second solo album, Muse, is to me in stark contrast from the last album, Face, because Muse doesn't really come across as Jimin doing anything that new, that out of his normal mode. It's still quite lively, largely R&B and largely romantic leaning in terms of its lyrical message and whatnot, but it doesn't really dabble in too many outside genres. I guess we could point to the Sgt. Pepper's Beatles iconography comparisons in terms of the visuals regarding this album. On the song Be Mine, I feel like I was getting a bit of a mariachi vibe with the strings. There's definitely some movie soundtrack, carnival, marching band vibe a little bit on this too earlier in the track list, but largely it's Jimin doing more Jimin stuff. This doesn't feel as interesting as an album as the last one. I guess that's okay in the sense that this is really just released to satiate the fans as they wait for him to return from his military service. On the other hand, it does come across as just music that didn't really make the first album. That's not how RM's recent album sounded. That was very much a artistic vision. Like, I'm not really sensing that as much with this album from Jimin. That being said, for what it is, I think it's completely fine, completely listenable, and again, will certainly satiate the fans. Unsurprisingly, this is quite short like the last album, 7 songs, 20 minutes, but one of those is an interlude, one of those is an intro, one of those is a single that came out months ago, the closer song. Anyway, I think it's all pretty solid. Rebirth intro was a lot livelier than I expected. I actually thought Jimin's vocals were really awesome on this intro song. Some fun call and response moments, the bass dropping in a smooth way. Definitely the movie soundtrack vibes are on that song. And then we lean into the Sgt. Pepper aesthetic with interlude Showtime, old-timey carnival horns, then the marching band shows up, and then of course that leads us into the song Smeraldo Garden Marching Band featuring Loco. And of course, the marching band tempo continues with those drums, and the Loco feature actually perhaps a bit random out of nowhere, but it fits the song, specifically the drum tempo, quite well, I think. Slow Dance, despite its name, actually quite upbeat, surprisingly. I enjoyed Jimin's vocals a lot on this, very smooth. Be Mine, that's where the mariachi strings, at least that's the vibe I got. I don't know if it's strictly that, but definitely different from the other songs and quite catchy, I would say. Then we have the big single Who, where it's definitely a maximalist Jimin song, a bit more auto-tune on this one. The Who's My Heart Waiting For refrain, specifically, very sticky, very catchy. Is this like anything flashy about this as a big K-pop single? No, not really, but Jimin's vocals are always really nice to listen to, auto-tune or not. So for what it is, it's still pretty solid, you know. And then Closer Than This, which had already been released, pretty bouncy, honestly, for one of those like fan love letter type songs. Enjoyed the keys, I enjoyed the bass. Ultimately, is any song off Muse as good as Like Crazy from the last album, or even Set Me Free Part 2? I don't think so. That's okay. I did chuckle that Jimin performed, I believe it was Who, on Jimmy Kimmel. Obviously, that was just released, but he recorded that when he did Jimmy Kimmel the first time around last year, and they kept that secret, kept that in the vault until now. Big hit, really planning. At this rate, though, I'll be curious if we get another album from V this year. I think that one's probably the most likely. Jungkook, I'm not sure, just because obviously he was so successful last year, and he was able to promote all of that because he went to enlistment last. So would they have Jungkook put out more music again when he's not able to capitalize it in physically? I'm not sure. Maybe they'll save a lot of that stuff. On the other hand, the group has to reunite when they return. So who knows? You know, obviously there's so many big hits off that album from his, and he really has crossed over into the Western market like no K-pop artist ever has before. Maybe keep the momentum going even if he's not physically here. I'm not sure. And J-Hope, you know, he'll be back in the fall. Maybe he'll release at the end of the year. I don't know. But we're definitely going to get more. It's just a question of who it's from. You know, can't rule out Suga either. And Jin will, I think, just be recording an album now. So anyway, BTS, they're never really gone. But let me know, what did you think of Jimin's second album, Muse? What was your favorite song on it? And for more K-pop reviews, more music reviews, subscribe. And I'll see you next time. What's up? Welcome back to Nostalgia. Dave here with a review of Denzel Curry's latest mixtape, King of the Mischievous South, Volume 2. This is the follow-up to Denzel's Come Up mixtape from 2012, one of his very first tapes, really before he blew up, before he started getting more national attention, of course, rising up out of South Florida when rap was incredibly hot with new talent back then, as we know. Denzel Curry, peers of people like XXXTentacion, Ski Mask the Slump God, etc., coming out of Raider Clan. We know the story at this point because Denzel's been in our lives for a long time, and he's definitely one of my favorite rappers out today. The most appealing thing about Denzel Curry remains his unique, singular voice. He has an energy on the mic that is really unmatched and certainly stands out whenever you hear him. He's incredibly charismatic, but is always giving us really dexterous and fun flows. It's a fun match of technical ability and banger-making ability as well. Those don't always exactly meet. And Denzel, to his credit, has really branched out beyond his original sound that, you know, blew up, of course, with his Imperial album. Think of songs like ULT and Ultimate and Naughty Head. That's definitely the Denzel I always think of in my mind. But with his recent records, you know, Unlocked, and especially the last album 2 years ago, Melt My Eyes, See Your Future, Denzel has dabbled in new production styles, new flows, more melodic type music. I think of the song X-Wing from the last album, for example. So he's become more well-rounded. That being said, I think the more traditional sound that Denzel, you know, became famous doing, it's still his strength and still the type of Denzel Curry rap I would like to hear. That's what he went back to on Kings of the Mischievous South, Volume 2. This new mixtape from Denzel Curry is very much Denzel going back to the basics, bringing a lot of guests with him, and just kind of having fun, letting loose. Lyrically, it's nothing too interesting, but it's also a low-stakes tape. Like, this is just a lot of fun. It's a quick listen. You have a lot of guests really showing out. I think 2 Chainz and Mike Dimes, A$AP Ferg and Tia Corinne, A$AP Rocky, Playboy Zay. A lot of guests make their presence known, but Denzel is never lost among the guests. No one ever steals the show from him. And again, that speaks to the charisma he has in a unique way in terms of the energy he has on the mic, his ability to use different flows. He remains a really fun rapper. Is anything on King of the Mischievous South Volume 2 threatening the status of the best Denzel Curry songs? No, certainly not. But I don't think any of these songs are bad either. And it's a nice listen for fans to hold us over until we get the next record. And I'll be very curious if the next full album is more in line with Denzel's traditional sound like this tape, or similar to Melt My Eyes in terms of Denzel broadening his horizons, getting more melodic. Time will tell. Regarding the songs on the tape, let's start with, you know, the first single, Hot One, featuring Tia Corinne and A$AP Ferg. I enjoy that one. That one's a banger for sure. Everything else, I think Black Flag Freestyle had also come out. Everything else is not a single. And of those, album cuts, I thought G's Up with 2 Chainz and Mike Dimes, really fun. 2 Chainz really matching the energy of Denzel and Mike Dimes. So 2 guys a lot younger than him. I think that was really great. Skied, you have Kenny Mason and Project Pat. Kenny Mason really bringing it. Fire verse from him, really floating. I enjoyed that one. Wish List with Armani White. That's probably my favorite song for guest matching Denzel. Like, I think Armani and Denzel kind of fit together like a glove on that song. That one's a banger. Hit the Floor with Ski Mask. I would have liked that one to hit a little bit harder, to be honest, given their history, given their long-standing friendship. The song's just okay to me. Hoodlums with Playboy Zay, one of Denzel's, friends, disciples, so to speak. And A$AP Rocky. I think this one really goes. Great feature from Rocky, one of his best in a long time. I've been anticipating his new album coming up next month for so long, and the singles haven't really grabbed me, but this starts to give me hope. We will see next month. Set It with Maxo Cream, also nice. I mean, Maxo always brings it, very consistent, very similar to Denzel in that regard. Cold Pimp, kind of out of nowhere, because you have Ty Dolla $ign doing his crooning, bringing more R&B to the song. But this song works pretty good, and Juicy J also able to match the energy, unsurprisingly. We know he can still do that even in his advanced years. And yeah, I mean, I think, again, like, it's a tape that doesn't wear out its welcome. 15 songs, but only 35 minutes. It's, again, low stakes, so you don't have to really think too hard about it. There's a few songs here that I'll revisit and enjoy moving forward. And yeah, we'll see what Denzel can do for us in the future. He is a one-of-one rapper as far as I'm concerned, and he's actually probably the top of my list of rappers I'm a fan of that I've yet to see live. I've just missed him with traveling, or he's opened up for other people and not headlined as much as I would like. I remember he opened up for Billie Eilish a few years ago. He's about to go on tour with Suicide Boys, now opening up again. I would love to catch him headlining at a smaller venue. That would be awesome. So hopefully in due time, I'll be able to do that. But yeah, let me know. What did you think of Denzel Curry's latest mixtape, King of the Mischievous South, Volume 2? What was your favorite song? And for more rap reviews, more music reviews, subscribe. And I'll see you next time. What's up, welcome back to Nostalgia. Dave here with a review of Childish Gambino's 5th album, Bando, Stone, and the New World. And this album is significant because Donald Glover has said that this is his last album under the Childish Gambino name. It's still a bit unclear if he plans to make much music moving forward, perhaps under his own name, I would imagine, probably not under a new stage name. Either way, I think this is certainly an endpoint in some degree for Donald Glover's musical career, and obviously significant. If you read what he said to the New York Times, it does sound like music in general is less fulfilling to Donald than it used to be. He's obviously 40 years old now, but let's just keep it real. Donald Glover's musical output is the least significant, least important stuff he's made as a creator. As we know, he's such a multi-hyphenate producer, screenwriter, director, actor, comedian. Music was part of that, but it seems to be, I think, rightfully on the back burner. None of his music is as significant as his work on Atlanta. And frankly, this year on Mr. and Mrs. Smith, primarily as an actor, but also as a producer, he once again showed how great he is, and that's part of his big Amazon deal. So I don't know, man. Like, I am kind of cool with this being the last of Donald's music. I'm sure he'll make music again. This is not the last we'll ever hear from him musically for the rest of his life, but it does sound like we're not going to need to expect much for a while now. If Bando, Stone, and the New World is the last album from Donald Glover, certainly the last album under the Childish Gambino name, this is a pretty awesome send-off for him. This is a really wide-ranging album, long, 17 songs, 1 hour. Man, does Donald cover a lot of ground with this. We jump across many genres. There's some real industrial Yeezus era electronica on here. We have Donald getting super melodic and giving us really smooth, groovy bops. We have like an emo pop rock song on here. Of course, we have some hard rap as well. He's all over the place. I think lyrically he's very up and down. There's witty stuff, there's groaners. But I think more than anything, this album speaks to why Donald has been a significant musical figure, but also perhaps not a super consistently great one as well. I'm fine with Donald leaving music behind because I've always trumpeted Atlanta as better than anything he's ever made musically. That being said, I think this is a solid end spot for him, honestly. I think my feelings on this were kind of honed when Donald re-released the 31520 album from 2020, quote, finished now as Atavista. And I don't think many people cared that much. That was an album that came across as, unsurprisingly, unfinished, but also really up and down all over the place. Nothing super spectacular. The finished version didn't really change that, And it's just not as exciting, the music, as his other work. That being said, let's just get into the actual music here. Like I said, I think it's all over the place, but still versatile in its own regard. Right off the bat with Hearts Were Meant to Fly, with all the crazy special characters and numbers making the title. That's where you get the Yeezus, style, like industrial, like electronica rap, little baby voice in there, Donald flexing, lots of switch ups, lots of pitch changes. It's really all over the place. The song Lithonia, you almost have like church organ and like alt rock guitar on that one. Survive featuring Chloe Bailey. You have, I think, a really fun rap flow from Donald, new verse, old flow, to use his words. Fun bar with my son watching Bluey like we both crip. He's still got it sometimes. A song like Steps Beach, though, like the singing, I don't think was that great from Donald. He's never, to me, been an amazing singer. He's been able to certainly get by and really achieve great high singing from time to time. Look no further than Redbone, for example. But I think sometimes it can really get away from him on a song like this. Talk My Shit, unsurprisingly, hard flow, great beat for the guest flow, Millie as well, a lot of flow switch-ups. I think the lyrics from Donald, though, are pretty whack, like all over the place on this, just kind of like non sequiturs, saying random shit, honestly. Got to Be. I love the singing from Donald on this, the I Don't Know Why part specifically. Some fun distortion throughout this song as well. The Don't Stop drop, a la French Montana's Pop That, makes its presence felt. The song Real Love, I think this is one of the clear highlights on Bando Stone. This song is great, very groovy, fun melody, good hook from Donald, great singing, some background vocal accents on this. This one's very easy to revisit. I quite enjoy it. In the Night, featuring Georgia Smith and Amory, who was also on Talk That Shit. Solid duet, steady rhythm. I kind of would have liked more fireworks between a Donald and Georgia song, to be honest. Another big highlight on the album is Yoshinoya. Very subtle beat, but also menacing, almost like a light drill vibe. Anyway, another hard flow from DG. And I don't know, kind of like a J. Cole line, but also a line fitting of his age. You fucking these hoes, I'm fucking my wife. I can go either way on that one, honestly. You have the Apple stock line in terms of selling Apple stock to buy a farm. Specific. We'll give it to him. Also, bemoaning the death of the blog era in rap, which of course is very old news at this point, but I as someone who participated in the blog era, I appreciate that kind of reference. Can You Feel Me, featuring Legend. That would of course be Legend Glover, Donald's, I believe, 7-year-old son. Honestly, as far as putting your kid on your album goes, this song was pretty good. It was just fun to hear Donald and Legend basically go bar for bar on this song, and shout out Drake putting Adonis Graham on For All the Dogs, kind of kicking this trend off the past few months. I didn't hate it, honestly. I thought it was pretty fun. No Excuses, featuring Ludwig Göransson. Of course, Ludwig, a former big-time collaborator with Donald years and years ago, who of course has now become a master film scorer and composer in his own regard. Ludwig's only on a few of these songs this time around. That song, though, No Excuses, it's 7 minutes long. I think the singing's pretty bland, pretty washed out. There's these long sections of just keys and drums, and there's chanting, there's saxophone. Ends with, I think nighttime crickets. I don't know about this one, man. This one kind of droned on for me, to be honest. Cruisin' featuring Yeet, just fun to hear Yeet on a song with Donald. I don't know if they have great chemistry per se, but I thought Yeet brought it in terms of doing what he usually does. We Are God, kind of a weird one in the context of the rest of the album, but then again, it's kind of been all over the place, so not the biggest deal. Tribal processional drums really setting the mood right away on this one. The vocals, though, kind of hushed, kind of unintelligible at times from Donald. Not the best vocal performance, if you ask me. Running Around, featuring Fouché. This song is really out of nowhere. The fourth to last song on an hour-long album, and it's Donald's like, hey, let me make an emo, light alt rock song out of nowhere. Speaks to his versatility, though, that he's able to kind of fit that song pretty well. I thought the performance was good. It's pretty fun, especially if you like that kind of music. And then he follows that up with, to me, the best song on the album, Dadvocate. It's when you see that title, you might come across as, oh, this is going to be cringy as hell, or this is going to be super preachy, or a love letter to my kid, or whatever it might be, right? Or kids. He has 3 kids, I believe, now. But no, Dadvocate's a super smooth, groovy bop. This is the closest I think this album has to a true banger, to be honest. I didn't expect it to be this type of song, to be honest, but I love this song. It's definitely my favorite. This album is, apparently a soundtrack to an upcoming film or short film that Donald has made. A lot of the songs have like outros where there's like spoken word in terms of like Donald speaking to someone else, and it's almost like bookending like scenes and stuff. Apart from that, it doesn't really come across as much of a soundtrack per se. Perhaps those vocal drop-ins will make more sense when we see the film itself. But yeah, I think honestly, Band of Stone in the New World, this is very much the Donald Glover musical experience, the good and the bad. And what more of a fitting way for him to send off at least the Childish Gambino era of his career. The Childish Gambino experience has been massive highs and massive lows, especially in the early days. So I think to kind of capture the multitudes of that, even though I think Band of Stone is largely much more good than bad, seems a bit fitting. Like I said, I'll be very curious if he returns to music under his own name in the future. Who's to say? This kind of rings of The Weeknd saying he's not releasing music on as The Weeknd anymore, because I think part of that is branding and SEO and just the way our musical systems and DSPs work and whatnot. I guess he could change all of his stuff to Donald Glover, and I think he's broadly famous enough now that it could work, but we'll see. Let me know, though, what did you think of Band of Stone in the New World? How did you think about it as a send-off album for Donald Glover's Childish Gambino music? Let me know. And for more music reviews, subscribe. And I'll see you next time. What's up? Welcome back to Nostalgia. Dave here with a review of The Boys Season 4 on Amazon Prime Video, out now in full. This is the penultimate season to the black comedy satirical superhero series that, of course, has been a massive hit for years now on Amazon and was following up the first live-action spin-off of the series in Gen V, which came out last year. Spin-off, I thought, worked pretty well, was quite successful, a nice expansion of the world, so to speak, and did come back around in this season of The Boys, at least a little bit. The Boys Season 4 is the least successful season of The Boys from a character development and plot progression standpoint. I still enjoyed my time with this season, and I especially enjoyed the finale and where this penultimate season has now left us. We have really rapidly approached the end game of The Boys, which I think makes a lot of sense in terms of where these characters have been, where they are now. It's time to wrap things up. Anthony Starr remains incredible as Homelander. Unfortunately, the newcomers to The Boys Season 4 fell pretty flat for me. Firecracker was just too similar to Stormfront, and Sister Sage as a character had a lot of potential, but just didn't really manifest itself in as noticeable ways as I was expecting. Of course, the satire in The Boys is very on the nose, very obvious, but still makes you feel a bit uneasy in terms of noticing that familiarity. And there's certainly enough lingering threads and open questions for the final season that I think makes its prospect very exciting. In terms of what works best in The Boys Season 4, I actually think Kimiko gets a lot of great moments and, fine-tuning to the character development. No one really grows super much as a character this season, but I really enjoy the Kimiko character. I think Karen Fukuhara is really great in this role, despite the fact that she doesn't speak on the show. She does a really good job. The other side of that coin, though, is Frenchie. I thought this was a really bad Frenchie season. The first half, obviously, his guilt and his personal relationships, I just feel like that all felt really flat, just not done well at all. Some of the other supporting characters, I think it's an okay season for MM. It's an okay season for Huey. I think the big development for him really is the passing of his dad, played, of course, by Simon Pegg. And I think actually the moments where he briefly comes back to full strength when he gets some Temp V in the hospital and then starts killing people, I think that was a really done really well, honestly. And you knew in the end Huey would let him go the way he did, but I actually think that came together in a pretty nice way. I also enjoyed Huey being being captured by Tech Knight from Gen V. Wasn't expecting Tech Knight to be so integral to that one episode, the way he was when Huey gets trapped in the sex dungeon, ostensibly. I also enjoyed Huey kind of being a pawn of the shapeshifter soup, who manipulates him by taking, Annie's appearance and whatnot. Annie Starlight, she doesn't change too much this season. I guess the closest stuff is really just like Firecracker having a personal vendetta and having that be revealed early on, and just Starlight continuing to get a lot of abuse as the kind of figurehead antithesis to Homelander and his supporters. Funny enough, the new Black Noir, the new guy playing Black Noir, listening to him speak and express issue with his lack of motivation in the character. I actually thought that was pretty funny and a little bit of fun flavor for the Black Noir character. And I think a nice touch on, the creator's part in that this is still the same actor playing Noir. Now he actually gets to speak and act a little bit more. I think it's a pretty solid season for the Deep. Chase Crawford is really committed in this role. The Deep is still a joke, obviously, but they've done a really nice job over the seasons to kind of humanize and put him in a lot of gray, despite the fact that he's a dipshit, obviously, and firmly still a bad guy. On the other side of that, of course, you have A-Train, Jesse Usher, definitely starting to shift allegiances, feeling like he can't put up with the bad things he's asked to do. I would have liked more with that, like more time with A-Train's psyche, to be honest, but I'm happy to see that progress. Similarly, same thing with Ashley over at Vought, obviously, who really takes matters into her own hand at the very end as Homelander is openly purging the company, and she takes some Temp V to help survive. Exciting. For a long while, I was expecting Butcher to die or be very near death and probably die in the finale. I didn't think they would kill him this season. I was not really expecting what happened in the finale where he gets shot up again and is able to take out Victoria Newman the way he does. That was certainly a bombshell moment. And of course, having Newman's death not actually get in the way of Homelander's grand plan to take over the country and the world and whatnot, and soup supremacy and all that kind of stuff. It actually worked out even better. And unfortunately, that quote plan of Sister Sage, the way she breaks it down to Homelander in the finale, it just didn't really come across consistently enough as Sage's schemes. I don't know. I think there's still room for that character to be developed better in the final season, but it just didn't quite land as well as I wanted it to this time around, despite the fact that she was in and around the plot pretty consistently. The stuff with Homelander's son Ryan, that's still very much up and down in terms of him being a very fragile character who was being manipulated on all sides effectively, good and bad, and what's going to happen with him. The performance is intentionally very reserved and awkward, and he's a bit of a tough sit at times, honestly. I understand why it's the way it is, but it's a bit tough to be with sometimes. Of course, Homelander, a lot of great stuff with him. I think when he goes back to the people who created him and torments them before slaughtering them, that was pretty effective. When he basically talks to himself in split personality mode in terms of the cracked mirror, a la Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin, that was really nice. We've really shifted to a different stage, obviously, by the finale, where martial law is in effect. Soups are rounding up dissidents, and we see the Gen V, bad guys who were established at the end of Gen V are very much like servants of Homelander. I'm curious what happens with Gen V Season 2, which of course is coming, as we know. I would think that would come before The Boys Season 5 comes out, because it's in development. Of course, the death of Chase Perdomo put a bit of a wrinkle in that, but if Gen V is to come back, you have the people on the run, the good guys and the bad guys. It would very much fit right into this new world that The Boys established leading up into its final season. So it would actually feel even more integral if we get that spin-off season before The Boys Season 5. We'll see. We have The Boys being split up at the end of the finale, but then all of them being captured with the exception of Starlight and Butcher, who didn't split, I guess. I forget. I feel like that's the kind of thing that's going to get resolved very quickly in the beginning of the final season, stuff like that often does. They won't stay captured for long, as we know. But the fact that the world's a very different place now as we enter this end game, it's pretty tantalizing, right? Because it just leans into the fear that Homelander is able to invoke and the familiarity that, of course, we see in him as an authoritarian fascist person who's also effectively invincible. And the tease, the mid-credits tease of Soldier Boy still being out there and in stasis once again, but now under the control, seemingly, of Homelander's probably inability to leave him alone, hopefully, you would think, comes back into play in that final season. I would have to imagine. But yeah, ultimately, The Boys Season 4, it was very much the means to an end type season, in the sense that this was a show probably originally conceived as 4 seasons, stretched to 5 due to its hit nature. So the plotting that's going to happen in season 5 was long since established, and they kind of had to stretch things out. You'd have to imagine the show's gone that way, similar to what happened with The Bear, going from 3 seasons to 4. I'm still very much anticipating season 5. I think the finale did a really good job of getting you re-excited for that. And I'm also pretty eager about Gen V season 2, to be honest, as well. But let me know, what was your favorite moment about The Boys season 4? What did you think worked the best? What was your favorite new thing about it? And for more TV reviews, subscribe. And I'll see you next time. What's up? Welcome back to Nostalgia. Dave here with a review of Twisters, the new disaster film from Lee Isaac Chung, starring Daisy Edgar Jones and Glenn Powell. This, of course, is a sequel to the 1996 film Twister, which was a big hit in its own regard back in the day. And it's a very loose sequel, though, and it's really more of a reboot, reimagining, restarting of the franchise that's now a franchise, because you need no prior knowledge of that first film at all. And you probably kind of know what to expect already going in, especially if you've seen the trailer. But I really enjoyed Twisters. This movie is an incredibly satisfying, crowd-pleasing summer blockbuster in every sense. We are once again worshiping at the altar of cinema's savior, Glenn Powell, who is awesome in this movie. He is right at home as this YouTubing, storm-chasing, twister-taming man. And as we know, Glenn Powell is just so charming and has that shit-eating grin that we've come to fall in love with. He's right at home in this part. But also Daisy Edgar Jones, she does a really nice job as a foil to Glenn, and she's actually the lead of the film. Twisters also has a really stacked ensemble supporting cast with Anthony Ramos, Brennan Perea, and Sasha Lane, and Katie O'Brien. Character work in this film is very satisfying. Is anything super surprising plot-wise with this movie? No, not at all, but it's crowd-pleasing nonetheless, and the movie knows how to handle the big CGI twisters effectively, and it knows how to handle the wow, but also the kind of crazed mania that comes with, going after and approaching tornadoes. Thinking further about Lee Isaac Chung directing this film and following up Minari, in the beginning I was like, oh, this is another cynical example of indie, small-scale director gets souped up for some kind of franchise play. And on top of that, he was doing a reboot to Twister from the 90s. And it's like, oh, I don't know about this. But he actually had a really good touch for making this more than just a CGI spectacle. This movie is not just The Day After Tomorrow. I think the character work really shines through. And maybe Chung got enough experience directing episodes of The Mandalorian to handle the CGI blockbuster elements of the film. I'm not sure. But I thought he did a nice job. Plotting-wise, I think they do a really nice job with the script. Joseph Kosinski of Top Gun Maverick fame, of course, has a story credit for this film, but the initial setup, basically the intro to Twisters, the cold open, basically, you have Daisy Edgar Jones' character Kate in high school along with her friends, and they are really much into storm chasing and have a scientific lean, trying to experiment in terms of affecting Twisters and whatnot. And things go horribly wrong, and all of her friends die in a close call with a tornado, with the exception of Anthony Ramos. And that thing was a really great set piece, great introduction to the character. Does the Kate character have a whole lot to do necessarily in the film? Not really. She's basically a tornado savant, but it's pretty satisfying watching her get her confidence back together. And I don't know, watching her know how to predict which way tornadoes will go, which, updrafts will last and be touched down versus which ones will fizzle out. Like, it's just fun to see her succeed in the movie. I think her dynamic with Ramos is done pretty well. You could have actually used a bit more of that. And I think the introduction to the, kind of dueling factions, so to speak, where Kate comes back into the fold via Anthony Ramos, Javi, and they're working for this, scientifically minded, very smart storm chasing company trying to pursue data. And of course, they encounter Glenn Powell's Tyler, who's a successful YouTuber in his whole cadre. And you're set up to dislike the YouTubers and root for Ramos's crew, and then more revelations happen and those allegiances shift a bit. Again, not surprising to watch it play out the way it does, but I think it's satisfying and effective in its execution. And once Kate and Tyler get to come closer together and come to respect each other's experience in and around tornadoes as they learn more about each other, it's good. I think the second big set piece or the third big set piece, there's a handful. There's a good amount for sure where they both have to hide out in the bottom of an empty pool to survive a tornado. That one was very well done as well. I was really happy to see Brandon Perea as one of Tyler's colleagues in this film, just because he was such an awesome breakout in Jordan Peele's Nope, and he hasn't been in too much since, but he has a really fun supporting role. David Cornsweet, also in the movie. Again, the cast is pretty stacked as a colleague of Yavi, and he does a really good job as this kind of by-the-book, no-nonsense type. Again, seems like a great fit for Superman. We'll find that out next year. I will say Daisy Edgar-Jones, who's playing a character from Oklahoma, her accent, the twang of that Midwest accent, it's inconsistent, and you hear that early on. She seems to kind of let it go as the movie progresses. I didn't really mind it, though. I don't know. I was just in the whole time. And this movie seems to actually be on track to be a success at the box office. It was certainly one people weren't sure about in the lead up to the year, but it is interesting to think about why that might be, right? Glenn Powell, of course, coming off Anyone But You. This is another confirmation that he can open movies, but also Daisy Edgar-Jones deserves a lot of credit for that as well, because, Where the Crawdads Sing 2 years ago, that movie opened modestly, but then really legged out. So she has also been in a successful film as well, just to say nothing, of course, of the popularity of Normal People on Hulu. So I think it's awesome to see the Glenn Powell star power confirmed once again. We would have loved to have gotten that earlier this year with Netflix's Hitman, if that had actually been released. And I've been a fan of Daisy Edgar-Jones since Normal People, seeing her play and have good chemistry with another rising male talent, not just Paul Mescal, but also Glenn Powell, is great to see as well. And I think the key reason why Twisters is able to succeed and satisfy as much as it does is it's not just the CGI film. Like, the style of, or the wow factor of seeing crazy things generated from computers has long since passed. We need more than that now, and Twisters is able to give you that with the character, with the depth of its cast, and I think the real genuine heart that the movie, kind of opens up to as the story progresses. So shout out Twisters. I'm happy it's going to succeed. I really enjoyed the movie a lot. Definitely awesome big screen experience film for sure. There's definitely some wow moments, some moments where you're asking, like, what is wrong with these people, right? Because obviously chasing storms, whether it's for thrill or for science, is a hard thing for all of us to wrap our heads around logically, right? So it's crazy to see it on the big screen and fun as a result. But let me know, what did you think of Twisters? What was your favorite aspect of it? And for more movie reviews, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. All right, that's going to do for the pod this week. Next week, of course, the time is here. The wait is over. Deadpool and Wolverine. Is the Marvel comeback about to begin? We will find out soon. Also, new music from Porter Robinson and XG and Ice Spice. I'm also going to a YG concert that I'll be talking about, and a Schoolboy Q concert that I'll be talking about. So make sure you subscribe. YouTube.com/nostalgiapod. Linktree.com/nostalgiapod. See the links below. Get the best of 2024 Spotify playlist linked below. Let me know what's good, and I'll see you next week.